Welcome to the Authors Podcast with Lisa Newton. Writing a book is a dream for many people, and in today's society, it has become easier and more important than ever. If you are an expert, speaker, coach, or an authority in your field, having a book is the new business card. It can increase your credibility, enhance your status, and make you the go-to person in your field, opening doors and bringing a flood of opportunities straight to you. You can increase your fees and start choosing the clients you really want to work with. The Authors Podcast show with Lisa Newton is designed to inspire, educate and inform you, both entrepreneur and individual, on how to write a book, as well as writer's tips and strategies on how to actually get that book written. On today's show, you learn more about how to write a book, including writing ideas, marketing, and how to succeed in getting a book written. Here we go with the Authors Podcast, and here is your host, Lisa Newton.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Authors Podcast. On today's episode, I have Karen G, who is the author of a series which is about a children's series about a book called Dodger the Dog. On the line, I should have Karen with me now. Are you there?
Hi, good morning, Lisa.
Excellent.
Thanks on him.
Excellent. Okie doke. So, Karen, tell me then. I know we've spoken about this previously. I didn't want to say too much because I think you can explain far better in your own words. So, please tell us a little bit about yourselves, your background prior to actually getting into the book writing.
Well, thank you. So I had a career which spanned 34 years in banking, in retail banking.
Oh, wow.
I was a bank manager, an area manager. I worked in HR and learning and development for NatWest RBS. Mm-hmm. So, I took voluntary redundancy in 2013 and started up my own business, and I have a coaching business. And a lot, I was on gardening leave and I had a lot of time, and my dogs died. I had 2 Dalmatians and they both died 48 hours apart. I'd had them for 14 and 15 years.
Wow.
And what was, my daughter who works for the RSPCA, she was like, you need to get another dog and come on, because we were all really obviously traumatized. So she said, you need to get a staffy. And I'm like, no, I don't want to get a staffy. They've got bad press. And my mum, and she was like, Mum, you're making it worse. You need to look at this. And so I'm a devout animal and dog lover. So I looked into it and I realized that actually they're pretty awesome dogs, but poor ownership has kind of led the breed into where it is. So, so we did adopt a staffy, and we adopted Dodger, and he came from the RSPCA. And I've always worked with children. I was a brown owl, and I've got 3 children of my own. And with the coaching as well, I wanted to kind of mix it all up to write these children's books. So it's a mixture of coaching kids and teaching them great values, and using a staffy as a symbol of something fantastic and educational and loving, to really work on changing, the stereotype that the staffy's got. So really...
Well, I actually, because I've never had a dog before, I know what a Dalmatian is. Those are the ones with the black spots on, but I don't know what a staffy is and the kind of bad press they've had. What have they done?
Well, so a staffy is what we call a bull breed. And a bull breed is like a bulldog, English bull terrier, Staffordshire bull terrier, bull mastiff. The dogs are loving dogs. And back in the day, a Staffordshire bull terrier, Staffy, was the nanny dog. And if you look back in history, they used to leave it to look after the children. But there's been some poor ownership and some incidents where people have been attacked by different breeds, in fact. But the Staffy tends to get the blame, even if it isn't a Staffy. In America, there's a massive thing with pit bulls, and they're another bull breed. So these dogs, they tend to be very boisterous. They when they get hold of something like a rope and they're playing, they tend to not let go. And I don't know, a mixture of all of this has kind of got them a reputation for aggression, when actually they're quite the opposite. They actually have a separation anxiety if you leave them. They're very sensitive, and they don't do very well in the kennel environment or the rescue environment because of that.
Okay. So did you get your dog from the RSPCA?
Yeah, so what happened was so my first book is How I Became Dodger Dog, which is exactly that. It's his rescue story, and it's how he became Dodger. So of course, so Dodger's a real dog, and all the animals and things in my books are true and real. So Dodger was rescued from the RSPCA by my daughter, the one who sort of said you need to get a staffy. He was abandoned there by someone who said they found him, but Dodger clearly knew who he was and wanted to go back with him. But anyway, he got left, and it was a couple of months after I'd lost my dogs. And what happened was my daughter said, "Oh, Mum, there's this awesome little staffy," but I was going on holiday, and in fact for a month, because I was 50 that year. And I said, "Well, I can't get a dog there, I'm going away for a month." And she said, "Oh, staffies come up all the time, I'm sure another one will come up." But when I came home after a month, a couple of weeks later, she said, "That dog's still there." And I was like, "Whoa, why is that?" And again, she was, "Well, it was summertime, they couldn't find a rescue centre that would take a staffy, so that's another issue." If there's a lot of the same breed, rescue centres don't like to have, all of or too many of one breed. So poor Dodger was still there. I said to my daughter, "Oh, okay, what's going to happen to him?" She said, "I don't know, we don't know yet." And I said, "Oh, how could we adopt him? What could we do?" And she said, "I've got him in the van. I'm bringing him home." And that was how we got Dodger.
Oh, okay. So tell me how the book idea transpired then. How did that come about, wanting to write about the dog and everything?
Well, it sort of, I don't know, I suppose it happened by accident because of my history. As I said, I was a Brown, now work with children. I know it seems a long way away from being a bank manager, but I sort of left the bank in September and didn't officially leave until December. So I was at home a lot, and that's when I started. I had a little puppy, and I started to write the books. It was just, I don't know what it was, on a whim, really. I've never had a desire really to be an author of any description. It was more like a little hobby thing I started doing. And then what happened was I wrote a few books. I wrote 4 books, and then I started to think about illustrations. So I tried to do some illustrations. They were absolutely dire, and I asked my daughter, the one who brought him home, because she likes drawing, and she said, "I haven't got time." And they kind of went on hold for a while, because we were trying to work out how to illustrate them. And then actually where I met you, I joined for networking for my other business, and I met Kim Weimer, and I know that Kim's had a podcast and spoken to you about her own book, but
yes,
I didn't know that she was an illustrator, and she loved to draw and paint, and cats actually were her speciality in the beginning. So we got together, and she knew I was looking for an illustrator, and she said, "Look, I draw a bit, I'll draw you some pictures, see what you think." And then they were just fantastic, and I don't know, we became great friends, and now Kim illustrates all the books for me.
Excellent. So you said you've written 4 books. So the first one, which was How I Became Dodger the Dog. How soon did the idea for the second book come around?
To be honest, again, it came around really from an instance of what happened. So I wrote the first book, and it was just his rescue story, and I wanted to get it out there about rescuing these dogs. But when I had Dodger at first, as I said, I had a lot of time on my hands, and I was doing a lot of walking. And one day we went to the marshes. We live in East London. We went to Hackney Marshes, and the River Lee runs along those marshes, and let Dodger off the lead as usual. He runs off as usual. Anyway, next minute, he's not come back. And I was looking for about 15 minutes, absolutely panicking, couldn't find him anywhere. Then I was screaming, calling, blowing a whistle. Then I heard like some whimpers and barks, and so I followed it right down to the water's edge, and there he was, drowning in the River Lee.
Oh no.
And I had to pull him out, grabbed his harness, ripped him out. He was choking, spluttering. It was mud, snowy ice, but full of litter. He was in the middle of a massive amount of litter, glass, cans, bottles, you name it. Yeah, it was everywhere. And that was when I kind of thought, okay, I could write another book about this. And that's my second book. It's called Dodger Dog's Muddy Mistake. And it's like, yeah, well, he did make a mistake that day. So it's about staying safe, you know, not running off, staying with whoever takes you out as a child. We talk about ducks. The ducks were all swimming past Dodger as he was drowning, and I thought about them living in that mess, you know, that's their home. So that's in the book. And we encourage kids to pick up litter. And the funny thing about Dodger is he does love a plastic bottle. So I've got him to pick up plastic bottles, and he'll carry them in his mouth, and we can put them in the bin. So that was where that kind of ecological litter sort of approach came. So that's when I wrote the second book.
Excellent. So that's really interesting. So the books are like a little moral for children.
Yeah, they're educational. They meet Ofsted, because one of the schools I read them in, the head teacher, I'd read them in a few schools, and then one head teacher went to me, does it meet Ofsted? And I thought, oh, does it? I don't know. And she said, can I have a copy then to check? So I was like, okay. And I was thinking, well, no one said this to me before. Then she come back and she said, yeah, they do. And I was like, oh, all right, that's good. That was by accident. But they meet Ofsted, you know, for the nursery, preschool, junior school, because of the messages of love, sharing, kindness, honesty and integrity that actually run through all the books.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, excellent. Would you say primary school age children from nursery?
Yeah.
So maybe 2-3
From
years
nursery
old?
Primary school, yeah.
Okay. And okay, so the first book is called How I Became Dodger the Dog, His Rescue Story, and the second book is Dodger Dog's Muddy Mistake. I love it. You were listening to the Authors Podcast with me, your host, Lisa Newton. You can email me, lisa@lisanewton.co.uk. And remember, we have the Inner Circle, which is for writers just like you, and you can join us at writerbook.net. I am, if you've just tuned in, talking to Karen G, who is the author of the Dodger Dog series. So, Karen, tell me about the third book then.
Well, I've grown up with dogs, and when I was a girl, we had young girl. We had 4 or 5 dogs, and my nan had a dog. Everybody had a dog, yeah. And when I got married, I had a dog. Then we got a dog, so always had a dog. So as I said to you, I had 2 Dalmatians, so I just had Dodger. So then I decided that, you know, we would get another dog. So as a family, we decided, and one of my Dalmatians was deaf, which is quite common in white dogs.
Oh, okay.
So I'd had that dog. I had her for 15.5 years, Purdy. What other name would you call a little girl Dalmatian? But Purdy, yeah, she was deaf. And then what happened was I found out about this other staffy cross, and she was deaf, and she'd spent 3 months in the RSPCA in Southbridge. That was an animal centre, and she'd been already rescued. So she was there as a pup, then a very small pup, and then she was adopted, but then she was returned, and they found out that she was deaf, and she was there for about 3 months. I took Dodger down, and we had like a play date and a adoption visit, and we went through the process, and we adopted her. It seemed quite natural to write a book about that, and it was like the next book really. And so that's all about Shays' adoption story. So Shays, my other dog, she's a staffy, part German Shepherd and Shar-Pei, so she's a bit of a mixture, but she's mainly staffy. And she's deaf, and so that book's about adoption, because when you actually adopt a dog and you've got another dog, what happens is you go through a similar process to what people go through. You know, when they adopt children,
Yeah.
you go play dates and spend time so that they make sure that the dogs are going to get on. So, I mean, they loved one another straight away, and but they used to play ball. And there was a time Dodger was like barking, but she couldn't hear him. She was over the other side of the pen, and I don't know. It kind of all came together that I wrote that book, and it's about adoption disability, and it's kind of like Dodger discovers that she's deaf as well. And she notices him barking, and she says, "You need to look at me when you speak to me so I can read your bark." So it's all about that educational piece as well, about communication. And that's her rescue story, and it's, again, a true story.
Excellent. This is really fascinating. And just usually with dogs that have disabilities, what normally happens to them? Do they...
Well, deaf dogs is a big thing, yeah, because I don't know exactly all about the DNA genealogy. I'm not an expert on genetics, but dogs with predominantly white fur, maybe pink eyes, have a tendency to be deaf. So across the UK, there's a lot of deaf dog networks, deaf dog charities. There's absolutely no reason that you can't adopt a deaf dog, but we use sign language. So we sit, we call her, we tell her she's naughty by waving her fingers. You can talk sign language to a deaf dog. And another thing with a deaf dog is, I found, and I had it before, it's good to have two. So the second dog, as a hearing dog, is like a hearing dog for the deaf.
Yes.
So it's their ears. So that's what Dodger's become. And strangely, I'm writing a new book, actually. I'm in the middle of it, which is about Dodger gets a job. And in that book, Dodger realises everybody's got a job and he hasn't, and he thinks he needs to get one. So he explores being a guide dog, but he's not really sure. He doesn't want to wear the harness. And he explores being a sled dog, but he doesn't like the snow and the cold. So he goes through these different jobs and he realises, maybe they're not for him. So at the very end, he meets a hearing dog for the deaf, and he realises he's already got a job because he's his sister's hearing dog. So that's one of the books that's in the process of coming out.
Oh, excellent. And that's a good analogy, actually, because there are actually lots of dogs out there that work bomb disposal and sniffer dogs, and like you say, I always think of the big furry one that is in the snow, and when people faint and things. The Bernard.
St. Bernard.
Yeah, the St. Bernard's one.
We've got a book.
Say that.
We've got one in.
You got one in the book?
Yeah, it's going to be in that book of St. Bernard. We've got also, there's medical detection dogs. We've got one of those. I don't know if people know about that. They can sense cancer. They can sense disease. They can sense when their owner going to have an epileptic fit. So there's medical detection dogs.
Wow. So
dogs have a very valuable place in society.
Absolutely. Okay, no, fascinating. So where can people get hold of your books?
So you can get them on Amazon. They're on Kindle, and you're able to order them. They're part of Amazon Prime. So anyone who's got the Amazon Prime, you get free delivery. We've also got a website. Again, if anyone wants to know any more about us, it's www.dodgerdog.co.uk. And as you can see, the way we look at it, Dodger's on a mission. He's on a mission to save other staffies and to educate children. So if you want to find out more. And for example, recently, Dodger just has had a PAT test to become a pets as therapy dog. And that's another area that we're looking at. And Dodger goes into different schools and libraries, and he's very good, very popular, especially with autistic children who tend to be very drawn to him. So it's kind of the books is opening a lot of doors and really making a difference, especially to kids and as well as other dogs.
No, absolutely. And so how did you go about actually getting published then?
Well, what happened was I haven't really got an amazing story where I kept getting rejected, but I did speak to a couple of people, and there was someone who gave me some advice who told me that I wouldn't be able to get it published because it was a staffy, that it should be kind of a Labrador, maybe Andrex puppy style dog, to make it more appealing. And I didn't really make any effort. I met someone who'd self-published their book, so I decided, well, okay, let's see about this self-publishing. And so we self-published the first book about 14 months ago now. And I don't know, it's an A4 book. It's very, very colourful. They're all very colourful. They're all hand-painted watercolours, and I don't know, they're kind of pretty cool. Well, I'm biased. But they're traditional books. And I don't know, it worked. So we self-published on Amazon, and we self-published them all. Yeah, I have a dream maybe that some publisher's going to come along and want to work with us. But I haven't really made any effort because in the last 3 weeks, for example, I do charity events and dog shows. And I did the National Pet Show at the Excel. And I sold about 220 books in the past 3 weeks.
Wow.
So I haven't got an urgency to get a publisher, but it is on my bucket list and wish list.
But this was one of the things we were talking about, though, because the books are very popular. So you're doing very well without that publisher in the background kind of thing. And I think it's fascinating. When you was telling me about it, the time we met at the networking event, I thought, wow, I just think it's such a good idea. And the thing is, with a publisher, like you say, if that was the feedback you got, it should be a different type of dog, then that kind of takes from your vision. And one of the benefits of being self-published is that you've got a lot more control as to how, the story you want to tell. And it's about staffies and not Labradors. So
yeah, I mean, you know what? I would say that I know that people talk about there's a book in everyone now, is what they say, isn't it? I would say to anyone, why not self-publish anyway? Even if it's a hobby or something for fun, yeah? Amazon is actually fantastic here. It's free to self-publish. And basically on there, if you don't order a proof, like a physical proof, it's totally free. But if you order the proof, obviously you have to pay for your proof. But I always order a proof because we've got a lot of illustrations, and I like to see a handheld copy. But you can actually self-publish anything, really, and it's for free. So it's even a legacy for your children, your family. It doesn't have to be that you want to become an author. I would say to anybody, just do it.
Okay. And at the pet show, so what was that like, being around? What other people doing?
Well, I mean, there's other books. I met a lady who works for a publisher. She had her own book, and we did a book swap. I do that quite a lot. Her book is Bat Dogs Rescue. Something, I can't remember the exact name. It's Bat Dog, she calls it. So she wrote that book, and she was near me. There's a lady who she wrote an adult book, and it's called King Tommy. And that's for adults, and that's about how she rescued a dog in Goa in India, and how he won scruffs. So they're like crossbreed crufts. So he won that, and she's wrote a story. So I actually meet a lot of interesting people, and I also meet a lot of other authors, and so it's really great, to just get yourself out there. So we just mission, as I said, we're on a mission, and it's been a great journey actually.
No, it's excellent. You were listening to the Authors Podcast with Lisa Newton. Please do subscribe to, like and share this channel. If you're just tuning in, I'm talking to Karen G, who is the author of a series of books about Dodger the dog, who is a staffy bull breed dog, and Dodger goes on a series of different adventures, for want of a better word, and gets up to all sorts. But it's got a lot of educational material to help children within the stories. Okay, so Karen, what advice would you have then? So if someone's out there and they've got an idea, what's the first thing they should do if they want to write a book? How did you go about doing it?
Well, again, do you know what? It's not going to sound very glamorous. And if I do become some world famous author, I don't know if I should tell you, but I went in Poundland and I bought a packet of exercise books for £1. And I left the gap at the top of the page, you know, for where I had a vision that the picture was going to go. And I started writing them in the exercise books, just with enough space at the bottom that I considered would work. So, yeah, you know, very amateurish and probably, I don't know, will it be an exciting story one day to recall? Poundland will like it.
No, but
they'll probably start lots of exercise books.
But it's, to me, that is the first step. It can be as simple as that, you know. Get an exercise book, sit down.
If it's in your head, get it out.
Right, exactly.
Get it out on paper.
Exactly.
I still write that way anyway. So, you know what? I write that way because I kind of, I don't know, I write them and I have this gap at the top and then Kim puts the pictures in. And I don't know, it kind of really works. And I know exactly how many words make up a page, you know, and how many pages I need. And I don't know. And I bought a pack of 5 exercise books and I can fit a couple of books in one. So I haven't used all my exercise books yet.
How many do you think you will have in the series, or is it too early to say?
Well, it's funny because, I mean, I haven't published one of my original books, actually, that I wrote. So I've got one, Dodger Dog Learns Something New, which I haven't published. It's about sort of dog fighting. It's about BSL, so breed-specific legislation is where certain dogs can be seized, you know, by the police. And they're on a list on the Dangerous Dogs Act. So I've got a book that's about that, and I haven't published that yet, and I haven't got round to it. And I've written different books as well. So actually, there's probably 10 books going to be in the pipeline. Okay. So the books that I published are, those 3 that we talked about, and then a Christmas book, which is published last Christmas. That's Dodger Dog's Christmas Message, and that's like not what you get for Christmas, what you give. And that's also about the season. Don't give chocolate to dogs, and don't give a pet as a present. So don't give ducks bread. And so it's got a lot of messages in it. And Dodger gives to the homeless and helps others, which he does at Christmas, which we all do. And it's about helping others. So that's out. I've actually got a book out probably in the next 2 weeks, which I've written, you know, last year. And that's Dodger Dog at the Caravan. And that is Dodger and Shay on their first holiday together, and they do love the caravan. And that's predominantly about the beach code and the country code. So it's about environment, litter, leaving the countryside as you find it, looking after the wildlife. The beach is, you know, don't climb on the rocks, don't go in the water if the red flag's there. So they're, again, all educational. And Dodger meets his friend Mr. Seagull, who talks to him about, you know, seagulls are actually an endangered species, a protected species. Okay. And he tells Dodger all about when he was a boy, his dad used to take him fishing, you know, to catch fish. But now there's so much rubbish, it's much quicker and easier to go through the rubbish. And then Mrs. Rabbit, she's talking about litter to Dodger and Shay, and she says that her baby cut his paw on a can that someone had not taken the lid off properly. So I don't know, a lot of people don't realise you have to pull the whole lid off. And for wildlife, cans with half a lid hanging on are very dangerous. So they're all the educational pieces, and that's going to be out in the next 2 weeks. We're at proof level where we're just looking at tweaking it, so it's literally ready to go. And then we've got the job one that I told you about. Yes. And then we're going to have one out later this year about bullying. And that's going to coincide with National Bullying Week. So Dodger's going to explain basically to Shay that it's very naughty to chase cats, and that's bullying. So we're going to be tackling bullying, and Dodger Dog's definitely against that. So a lot of the schools that we read the books in are very excited. But we've actually had requests for books now. So we've had a request about 4 or 5 times now for a book about death. A lot of people can't find a book that really explains death to a child, either the death of a pet or actually of a person. So that book I'm looking to. So we've had a Dodger's sister, who's a cat lady, died last year, so that's going to be based around the understanding and explanation of that. And so we're always looking for new subjects, so definitely if anyone's got any ideas for us.
How would they get in touch with you if they did have an idea for something that Dodger could be doing?
Yeah, so if you want to get in touch, drop me an email, karen@dodgerdog.co.uk, and I'll always reply, definitely. And so some of the things that we are looking for, we're looking for libraries. I've got a summer of a lot of library visits, school visits, charities, fates, dog shows. We do lots of different things. So we're only very young in the business, as I say, it's just over a year. But the aim is that 25% of our profits will eventually go to dog charities and across the world, because we've actually sold books in America, in France, in Spain, in Singapore, in Australia. So it's not just about the UK, it's kind of about dogs and children wherever they hail from.
Absolutely. Excellent. A good connections for you would be libraries, schools, dog charities.
Yeah, and any charities. Children's and dog charities are probably, but we've done work with Mind and like lots of different charities.
Excellent. You were listening to the Authors Podcast with me, your host, Lisa Newton. You can email me, lisa@lisanewton.co.uk. And remember, we have the Inner Circle, which is for writers just like you, and you can join us at writerbook.net. If you're just tuning in, it's the Authors Podcast. My name's Lisa Newton. I am talking to Karen G, who is the author of a series of books about Dodger the dog. The website is www.dodgerdog.co.uk, and Dodger is spelt DODGER. And you can always email Karen at dodgerdog.co.uk. Karen, are you on any social... Sorry?
Yeah, Karen@dodgerdog.co.uk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you on any social media, Facebook or?
If you Google "I love Dodger Dog," we're on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and you can always find out where we are, what we're about, and what shows we're at, so you can come and see us. Yeah, we're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and it's "I love Dodger Dog."
Excellent. Okay. And would you say you are an avid reader yourself?
Probably I wouldn't know. I am going on holiday actually tomorrow, and I am taking, I did say about King Tommy, the dog from Goa.
Yes.
So I'm taking that book to read, because again, I love to do a book swap. The minute I meet someone, I always swap a book, and I'm going to be reading that on my holidays. But I tend to be a holiday reader. Yeah, I would say predominantly I'm a holiday reader.
Excellent. All right. So this is one business that you do. So it's the Dodger Dog business. And in addition to that, you also mentioned that you are a coach.
Yeah, I'm a life and business coach. And so that's predominantly my main business. Dodger Dog was a hobby really that sort of turned into a business, and it's really grown. But yeah, I'm a coach, and I help small business owners and also people in employment to achieve their own personal goals, and that's the business that I went in when I left the bank.
Okay, excellent. Final question then: what would you say has been the best thing about writing the series? Is there anything that has surprised you, let's say?
I mean, I don't know if it's surprised me, but one of the things that I love is, when I probably a bit of advice as well for people if they're thinking of self-publishing. Right, there's a couple of books. They're like the Bibles. Probably anyone here who's an author knows them. They're on Amazon, and they're like how to get published and how to write a book. And I can't think of the name of it, but it's the big, thick, famous one. And there's one for children's books. So when I got those and I read them, and it was like, give away as many free books as you can. Get yourself in front of as many people as you can. Do whatever you can afford to promote your book. So I decided that dog shows and charity events was going to be great, you know. So I started last year going to all different shows. We did a lot of big walkies events with the RSPCA, and we did a lot of small charity shows. And I've done lots of story times, you know, sitting reading the stories to kids. So I would say that the best thing is absolutely nothing to do with writing the books. The best thing is the people I've met on this journey. You know, I've chosen subjects like adoption, disability, but I've met so many people who bought the books because their child was adopted, they were adopted, their child's deaf, they're deaf, you know. And I've just met so many fantastic people. As I said, children with autism, I must have met, I don't even know how many children. And just to see and meet these people has just been a pleasure and an honour, really, I would say. So that's the best part. It's not really about the books. It's about people.
Yeah. And just a question regarding the illustrator. So you met Kim through the networking, and Kim's does your illustrations, and that's been a great partnership. When it comes to working with illustrators, do you interpret or state the kind of picture you want, or do you leave that to their imagination?
Oh, well, again, look, listen, I'm the lady with the books from Poundland, remember? So my approach to the illustration was probably as unauthorish as you can get. So what happened was, I looked for people to do it. I couldn't find anyone. I couldn't do it. My dog looked like a rat or something. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And then that's when I'd started networking, and I met Kim. And then it was quite a bit down the road. I'd known her a while, and I was still looking for this illustrator. And I looked into it, and people pay like £50 a picture, or they contact agencies. There's a whole host of ways you can get an illustrator. I got someone, they were more like an oil painting-y picture, you know, a bit sort of... Yeah. I don't know, Ruffalo style, like Tiger Came to Tea style, like a sketchy. And I wanted something bold and colourful and, I don't know, like cartoony. So, I don't know, I used to chat to Kim and I said, I'm getting nowhere with finding an illustrator. And, of course, I didn't have any money. So that's when she drew the pictures. But to be honest, she drew the pictures and she knew the dog, she knew me. And I just, liked the pictures, and I just said, that's great. And I can honestly say that, so we've got 4 storybooks out now, and we've got 1 activity book, you know, like a colouring-y, spot the difference-y type book. Yeah. And then the 5th one about to be out, which is all illustrated by Kim. And only once did I ever say, you know what, I think we need to change that picture. And that's the gospel truth. And it was just the way the dog was laying, really. It wasn't, I don't know, it didn't look right to me. But other than that, Kim really has a free rein. She just reads the book and draws what she's read, really. So, I mean, again, and the illustrations now in this latest book, which is about the caravan, I mean, they're so colourful and bright with beaches and trees, and you know, the pictures are absolutely fantastic. But Kim, really, I just let her get on with it. I can't draw, so I can't upset her because I'd have to draw on myself.
Well, that's great, because when you find people for your team and when you're on these projects and you work well together, then it just brings it all together.
Do you know what? I've got a great team behind me, and for a hobby, you know, these people, no one's getting paid, yeah. And I have a PA called Jo, and Jo Trenchy. She does my editing for me, and I have the guy who did my website, Rob Holmes, and Gareth Jones. He does my print and some graphic stuff, and my t-shirts and hoodies that I sell. I've also got a guy named John Weiss been helping me with video. He's done some videos, and now we're going to audio books, so all my books are going to be on audio.
Excellent.
And we're looking to get someone to sign. I suppose that's what I'm looking for. I need someone to sign my books, sign language, and we're looking to get that done. And I've got a fantastic guy called Paul Ryan who's going to be the voice of Dodger, and he's going to read my books on the audio version. So that's the next thing for me.
Excellent. That all sounds very, very exciting.
It is exciting.
So thank you very much then, Karen, for being my guest on the Authors Podcast.
My pleasure.
So for those of you out there that want to know more about Dodger and what he gets up to, the first book is called How I Became Dodger the Dog, His Rescue Story. And there are various other books within the series. Dodger Dog's Muddy Mistake. There's a book about his Christmas message, and also the one about adoption with his sister Shay.
Dodger meets Shay. Dodger Dog meets Shay.
Dodger Dog meets Shay. The website for more information is www.dodgerdog.co.uk. You can email Karen at dodgerdog.co.uk, especially if you have any ideas for other stories that Dodger could get up to. And if you just Google I Love Dodger Dog, he will come up on Instagram and various other social media, and you can follow his antics from there. So Karen G, from the author of Dodger Dog, thank you very much for being my guest.
No problem. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And listeners, I hope that's inspired you and encouraged you. Whatever your idea is, get some exercise books from Poundland, start writing, and you never know.
I could be sponsored by Poundland, couldn't
you
I?
could indeed, absolutely. So thank you all, and I will see you again soon.
Thanks.
You have been listening to the Authors Podcast with Lisa Newton, sponsored by Boogles Limited. Tweet the show at Boogles_books, spelled BOOGLEZ_books. You can also contact your host via the email address lisa@lisanewton.co.uk. And if you want to join our authors community, join the inner circle at www.writeabook.net. You have just been listening to the Authors Podcast with Lisa Newton. See you next time.